Before the Trojan War began, a king was told to kill his own daughter, or watch his entire army die. And he chose the unthinkable. Imagine your father walks into your room, smiles at you, and tells you that you're getting married. You're excited. You dress up. You travel to the altar. And then you realize, there is no groom. There is only a priest. And a knife? This is not a horror story I invented. This is what King Agamemnon actually did to his own daughter. And the worst part, he chose to do it. Before we get to the altar, we need to understand the man holding the knife. Agamemnon was the most powerful king in all of Greece. He ruled Mycenae, a city of gold-clad walls and iron swords. He commanded armies that made lesser kings kneel. He was not a monster by reputation. He was a husband, a father of 3 children, Iphigenia, Chrysothemis, and Orestes. He was respected. He was feared. And in the ancient world, those 2 things often meant the same. His brother was Menelaus, king of Sparta. And when Menelaus's wife, the beautiful Helen, was taken to Troy by the prince Paris, Agamemnon didn't just mourn for his brother. He saw an opportunity. He called every king in Greece. He promised them glory, wealth, and revenge. He assembled the greatest fleet the ancient world had ever seen, 1,000 ships. And he pointed them all at Troy. There was just one problem. The gods weren't cooperating. The fleet gathered at Aulis, a harbor on the eastern coast of Greece. Thousands of ships. Tens of thousands of soldiers. The greatest military force ever assembled. And the wind stopped. Not for a day, not for a week. For weeks on end, the sea lay flat as glass. No breeze. No movement. The fleet was trapped. Soldiers grew restless. Food began to run out. Men started dying of disease in the camp. The greatest military expedition in Greek history was rotting on a beach, before it had even started. Agamemnon consulted the seer Calchas. And Calchas told him something that would haunt every father who ever heard it.
The goddess Artemis is furious at you. She has killed the winds. And she will not return them until you sacrifice your eldest daughter, Iphigenia.
Why was Artemis angry? Versions differ. Some say Agamemnon had killed a sacred stag in her grove and boasted about it. Others say it was an older offense, a broken promise made before Iphigenia was even born. But here is what every version agrees on: the price was the same. Your daughter's life, for the wind. Now here is the question that will consume you for the rest of this video: what would you do? Agamemnon had a choice. Walk away from the war. Go home. Keep his daughter alive. Or sacrifice her, and sail to Troy. He chose Troy? What makes this story so disturbing, it isn't just that Agamemnon decided to do it. It's how he did it. He sent a message home to his wife Clytemnestra. He told her, send Iphigenia to Aulis. The great hero Achilles has asked for her hand in marriage. She is to be a bride. It was a lie. A calculated, cold-blooded lie, designed to get his daughter to walk willingly to her death. Iphigenia came. She was young. She was probably excited. She wore her best clothes. She traveled to Aulis with her mother. And when they arrived, there was no Achilles waiting. There was only her father's stone face and an altar. In some versions of this myth, Iphigenia begged. She fell at her father's feet. She reminded him she was his child, the same child who used to sit on his knee, pull at his beard, call him father. In the version written by Euripides, one of the greatest playwrights who ever lived, she spoke these exact words: "Was it not I who first called you father? Was it not I who sat upon your knee?" Agamemnon wept. The ancient sources are clear about this: he wept. He knew what he was doing. He understood what he was destroying. And he did it anyway. In the most famous version of the myth, told by Euripides in his play Iphigenia at Aulis, something extraordinary happens at the last moment. As the knife descends, Artemis takes pity on the girl and replaces her with a deer. Iphigenia is whisked away to become a priestess in a distant land. But here is the critical detail most people miss: Agamemnon did not know that would happen. He plunged that knife believing his daughter would die. The goddess's mercy was not his mercy. He made the choice as a man who was willing to let her die. The winds returned. The fleet sailed. The Trojan War began. For 10 years, Agamemnon led the Greeks against the walls of Troy. He fought. He won battles. He took captives. He quarreled with Achilles in a rage that nearly lost the entire war. He commanded. He conquered. And then, Troy fell. He returned home to Mycenae. A victorious king. A hero of legend. The man who brought down the greatest city in the world. But back in Mycenae, someone had been waiting for him. For 10 years. His wife. Clytemnestra. The woman he had deceived. The mother of the daughter he had tried to kill. The woman who had spent a decade alone, raising their surviving children, ruling the kingdom, and never once forgetting what her husband had done. She had not been idle. She had taken a lover, Aegisthus, Agamemnon's cousin and enemy. She had made her plans. She had sharpened her own blade. And if you think this story can't get more insane, stay with me. Because what happened next in Agamemnon's own house makes the Trojan War look like a family disagreement. This verbal cliffhanger prevents drop-off at the 8-minute mark. Agamemnon walked into his own palace. His servants drew him a bath. His wife greeted him with warm words and open arms. And then she threw a net over him, trapping him in the tub, and killed him. Right there. In his own home? The conqueror of Troy, drowned in his own bathwater. This is the moment the ancient Greeks used to ask their most dangerous question: was she right? Think about it. Agamemnon had deceived her. He had taken her daughter to an altar under the lie of a wedding. He had tried to kill that child for a war fought over another man's wife. And yet, in Greek society, killing a king, a husband, was an unforgivable crime. So Clytemnestra's own son, Orestes, would later kill her to avenge his father, and then be hunted by the Furies for matricide. The Greeks called this the Oresteia, the cycle of blood that never ends. Each act of justice creates a new act of murder. And it only stops when the gods intervene and create something entirely new, a trial. A jury. Law itself. Agamemnon's sacrifice of Iphigenia wasn't just a myth about a terrible father. The ancient Greeks were using it to ask a question that no civilization had answered yet: what do you do when the law of the gods demands the death of the innocent? Who has the right to decide? And what does a society do when it can't forgive, but it cannot keep killing forever? These were the questions that gave birth to Western justice. All because one king decided a war was worth more than his daughter's life. So here is where I leave you, not with an answer, but with the question the Greeks intended. Agamemnon was not a madman. He was not a demon. He was a man who believed the greater good justified an unthinkable act. He wept. He knew. And he did it anyway. History is full of Agamemnons. Men and women who sacrifice the people closest to them, for power, for glory, for ideology, for an empire that may not even last their lifetime. The question the Greeks were really asking, the question this myth was always really about, is this. Is there a cause worth killing your own child for? And if your answer is no, then what do you do when a god demands it? Tell me in the comments, do you think Clytemnestra was justified? Because that answer will divide this comment section like Troy was divided by that horse.